Supercar, 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 with beauty and grace, as swift as can be.
Mike Mercury, Supercar. A vehicle that could fly, dive, and drive all before you finished your bowl of frosted flakes. But how this groundbreaking show actually ended, that's a different story. And the answer is stranger than most people remember or want to admit. Picture it, 1962. You're sprawled on the living room carpet, 3 feet from a black and white zenith, watching puppets do things that seemed absolutely real. Not real for puppets, just real. This was Saturday morning magic before Saturday morning cartoons had even found their footing. Supercar gave us heroes, villains, and a machine that made every kid believe the future wasn't coming. It was already here, already waiting for the right pilot. But after 39 episodes, the hangar doors closed. Was there a grand finale? A final mission? A reckoning between Mike Mercury and the forces that had been hunting him from the very first episode? Before we get to that, and we will, you need to understand what made this world so impossible to leave behind. Because that's the part the highlight reels always skip.
Admittedly, no. But all the same, for my own peace of mind.
The story, Part 1, The World and Heroes. The world and premise. Supercar wasn't just a vehicle, it was the vehicle. A multi-environment marvel that could soar through open sky, plunge beneath the ocean's surface, and tear across any terrain on Earth. And in a single episode, it might do all 3 before the commercial break. This was 1961. The space race was no longer a rumor. America had just put Alan Shepard into space. The future felt electric, inevitable, and closer than most people were ready for. The central mission was deliberately uncomplicated: rescue operations and stopping criminal masterminds with very large ambitions and very few scruples. No dense mythology demanding a notebook. No conspiracies that would pay off 3 seasons later if you were still watching. Just heroes doing hero things, week after week, in a machine that represented everything we believed technology was becoming, and quietly feared it might actually become. What separated this universe from everything else on television wasn't its spectacle. It was its conviction. Supercar didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like next year's headlines, written by someone with better sources than anyone in the newsroom. The British production that arrived in American living rooms in 1962 convinced an entire generation that vehicles like this weren't science fiction. They were science, on its way. And the people piloting it were already chosen.
Hey, where's Beaker?
Dr. Beaker!
Here.
Beaker, what on earth are you doing?
The heroes we wanted to be. Mike Mercury was our guy, the pilot, the man with steady hands on the controls of the most advanced vehicle ever built, tested, or imagined. He wasn't a complicated figure, he was capable, calm in the cockpit when everything around him was unraveling. And in 1962, capable was the rarest and most aspirational thing a kid could imagine being. But Mike didn't carry the mission alone. The Supercar team operated like a mechanism with no wasted parts, each member essential, each one arriving exactly when needed. This was collaboration before teamwork became a word printed on motivational posters in beige offices with drop ceilings and no windows. What stuck with viewers across decades wasn't just what Mike did, it was the texture of how he did it. No theatrics, no speeches, just competence delivered at speed without apology. The kind of hero you'd impersonate in your backyard, making engine sounds with your mouth, absolutely certain that somewhere out there a real mission was already in progress and you were already late for it. The bond between the crew was the show's invisible engine. It ran underneath everything else, underneath the explosions, the rescues, the near misses. They trusted each other without needing to say so, and that trust made every confrontation with darkness feel like it actually cost something. Because for them, it did. We'll see exactly how much before this is over.
Should we test it now? Okay with you, Dr. Beaker?
Certainly, most certainly.
The women who made hearts race. The historical record on Supercar's female characters is frustratingly sparse, which may itself tell you something about how the show has been remembered versus how it actually played. The show's format, constant danger, rescue operations, master spies' unrelenting scheming, created space for characters who complicated the mission in ways the records don't fully capture. Some needed saving. Some, if the pattern holds, did the saving when no one thought to look their way. And some, perhaps, changed the outcome of missions that history has quietly attributed to someone else.
I think so. Right. Then that's the way we play it. Okay with you?
The villains we loved to hate, Master Spy. Even the name arrived like a warning. He was the recurring thorn in Mike Mercury's side, the cold, patient intelligence behind every scheme, every attempt to pry open Supercar's secrets, every plot to tip the world's balance towards something darker and more obedient to his particular vision of order. He didn't operate alone. Zarin stood beside him, adding weight to every threat, sharpening every confrontation into something that felt genuinely dangerous. Together, they weren't cartoon failures stumbling into their own traps. They were adversaries who understood exactly what they were up against and kept coming anyway. That distinction matters more than it sounds. What made them genuinely dangerous, more dangerous than the explosions and the chases, was their persistence. Episode after episode, thwarted but never broken, beaten back but never finished. They were the cockroaches of villainy, durable, adaptive, and somehow more frightening for the fact that defeat only seemed to refine them. You never wondered if they'd return. You only wondered what shape the next scheme would take, and whether this time Mike Mercury would see it coming. And here's what most viewers have completely forgotten about what finally happened to them. That part is coming, but first, you need to know what the show put them through to get there.
Starboard charging.
Opening roof doors. You can climb straight out, Mike.
The Story, Part 2, The Journey and Ending. The most memorable episodes and arcs. The episodic format of Supercar meant each week delivered something complete. A self-contained adventure with a beginning, a crisis, and a resolution that didn't leave you stranded until next Saturday. No to-be-continued cards. No cliffhangers that made the week feel like a punishment for watching. Just a story that started, escalated, and landed. Every episode followed a rhythm that became its own kind of gravity. Threat emerges from somewhere unexpected. Mike Mercury moves. Supercar does something that shouldn't be possible. Evil gets pushed back. The credits roll. You exhale. And then, before you've quite finished exhaling, you're already wondering what comes next, because the show had trained you to need it. This was storytelling built for an audience that wanted resolution, not endless deferral, not mystery stretched until it frays and snaps. And here's the thing about that approach that most people overlook. It takes real craft to make something feel inevitable and exciting at the same time. Supercar pulled it off week after week, in ways that far more complicated and expensive shows still struggle to match.
I understand how you feel.
5 long years of experiments and hard work on the Supercar, and
Now I'm trying to rush you into a rescue plan.
The ongoing mission. Across 39 episodes split into 2 series, the mission held its shape. Rescue the innocent. Stop the villains. Find out what Supercar could do when the situation demanded the impossible. And it always did. The formula worked because it was built from the inside out, designed around what the audience actually needed rather than what producers assumed they should want. Character growth here wasn't measured in therapy sessions or painful revelations delivered in dim-lit rooms. It was measured in competence, in the gradual, satisfying accumulation of hard-won capability. Watching Mike Mercury and the team become sharper, faster, more dangerous to the things that threatened people, that was its own kind of arc. Quieter than most, and far more durable. The stakes were always personal, not the end of civilization every Tuesday. Something smaller and therefore realer. A specific person in immediate danger. A specific threat that had to be stopped before the hour ran out. And that intimacy of scale is exactly what made each episode land with the weight it did. You cared because the show never stopped caring first. Master Spy and Zarin retreated, mission after mission, wounded, regrouping, already building the next plan from the wreckage of the last one. The crew marked another victory. Kids across America went to bed with the satisfying certainty that good wins. What they didn't know, what almost nobody watching knew, was how close that certainty was to being tested in ways the show had never once tried before.
You remember?
But Doc, that's not the same ceramic the rocket nozzles are made of, is it?
The final episodes. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. And if you grew up with this show, what comes next might rearrange something you've held for a long time. The original UK broadcast concluded on April 29, 1962. 39 episodes, 2 series. And then the transmissions stopped. No final confrontation, no revelation about what Master Spy was truly after all along. No last flight with the whole crew watching Supercar disappear into a sky that had never looked more open or more uncertain. The final episode, by all surviving evidence, was simply another episode. Another threat materialized, another rescue launched, another day ended the way every other day had ended, with the mission complete and the next one already forming somewhere just outside the frame, just beyond what the camera could reach. That's not a failure of imagination. It's a window into how television actually worked in 1962. Shows didn't architect their endings. They ran until the decision came down from somewhere above the writer's room that they wouldn't run anymore. And then they stopped, mid-stride, still moving. The series finale, as we now understand it, the callbacks, the closure, the emotional accounting, hadn't been invented yet. Nobody had thought to want it. Mike Mercury's fate was never written, which means it was never closed. Somewhere in the frozen universe of Supercar, locked into 1961 like a fly in amber, Mike is probably still at the controls.
Still receiving distress signals from coordinates nobody else will reach in time. Still flying towards something that needs stopping before it's too late. And Master Spy? Zarin? The last time we see them, they've been beaten again, the same as every other time. No cell, no reckoning, no grave. Just another defeat. And in their world, you already know what another defeat means.
How near does that mean I am?
5 miles, perhaps.
In that case, I reckon this guy's plumb in the middle of the city.
Why it ended when it did. Supercar completed its planned run of 39 episodes, production wrapped in December 1961, and that was the end. Not a cancellation, not a controversy, not a ratings collapse that forced someone's hand. A conclusion that arrived on schedule and then stepped quietly off the stage without announcing itself, the way the best exits always do. The creators had other ideas already forming in the background. Bigger machines, darker threats, worlds that would push harder and ask questions that didn't have clean answers. Supercar wasn't abandoned, it was graduated from, and what came next would carry its fingerprints whether it meant to or not.
Now's the time to see if the Clearview works.
What could have been? The episodic structure means no arc was left unfinished, no character abandoned mid-transformation. Every story that started also ended. That's a kind of integrity that serialized television has been chasing, and mostly failing to achieve, ever since. But close your eyes for a moment. Imagine Supercar surviving into the mid-60s, racing against Soviet technology as Cold War paranoia soaked into every broadcast and every dinner table conversation. Diving into ocean trenches as Cousteau made the deep seem like another frontier worth fearing. Reaching past the atmosphere as Apollo fever turned the sky into a ceiling nobody wanted anymore. That's the Supercar nobody made. The one that grew up alongside its audience, got harder and stranger and more willing to leave things unresolved. Instead, it stayed frozen. Forever 1961, forever clean, forever what one critic would call tame and a little infantile compared to what the decade eventually became. Whether that's a loss or a mercy is a question the show refuses to answer, which tells you something about the show.
With beauty and grace, as swift as can be, watch it flying through the air.
The legacy and what came after. The people who built Supercar didn't stop when the hangar closed. They went on to create productions that would reach further and leave deeper marks on the culture. Shows built directly on the architecture Supercar had laid down, whether or not they admitted it publicly.
The incredible vehicles. The pilots who believed in something beyond the mission. The villains who never quite gave up, no matter how many times they should have. The show found a second life through American syndication, starting in 1962. And for many viewers on this side of the Atlantic, that syndicated run was Supercar. Not an import, not a curiosity from somewhere else.
a cornerstone of early Saturday mornings, as native to the experience as cold cereal and the specific smell of carpet in winter. Whether Supercar was ever formally revived or continued sits just outside the documented record. But influence doesn't require documentation to be real. Every vehicle-based adventure that followed, every show built around a machine and the person reckless enough to fly it into whatever came next, carries something forward from that original marvel, whether it knows it or not. The debt may be unacknowledged. It isn't unpaid.
From its first transmission to its quiet, unannounced final frame, Supercar delivered 39 episodes of something television rarely achieves and almost never sustains: uncomplicated heroism. Mike Mercury never wavered, the mission never mutated into something unrecognizable. And for kids watching from living room floors across America, that consistency wasn't a limitation. It was the whole point, and the secret they couldn't quite name. This was television before television started apologizing for being entertaining, before prestige drama and anti-heroes and season-long mysteries that end with more questions than they opened. Supercar believed in clear lines, good and evil, threat and response, problem and solution. And it held those lines without flinching, without hedging, without looking over its shoulder to see if the critics approved. It captured a moment when the future still looked like something worth flying toward. Technology felt like a promise rather than a warning. And a puppet in a cockpit could carry more genuine inspiration than $100 million of modern visual effects and algorithm-optimized plotting ever will. That moment is gone, but Supercar is still there, frozen and intact, exactly as it was, still waiting for the right person to find it. So here's my question for you. Do you remember Supercar? Were you one of the kids who lay on that carpet and pretended those controls were yours? Or did you come to it later, through syndication, through an older sibling's stories, through the particular ache of nostalgia for something you never actually lived through, but somehow still miss? Either way, you found it, which means some part of it found you first. Until next time, keep those engines running and those missions accomplished. Mike Mercury would expect nothing less.